Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Besides MMA fighting, the other thing that 15-year-old Seth Jackson loved was his girlfriend, Amber Wright. But Seth and Amber were both teenagers from a small Central Florida town in a relationship that wasn't going to last long. In fact, according to Assistant State Attorney Amy Berndt, their romance ended after just a few weeks when Seth experienced heartbreak and was dumped. Their breakup was almost captured in real time in a dramatic public falling out on social media. The Gainesville Sun published their heated Facebook posts from the spring of 2011. Amber posted, "We done, bro. Hit me up in another lifetime." Seth posted, "Single now, hit me up now that I don't have a trick girlfriend." Amber soon started dating somebody else, a 19-year-old named Michael Bargo. Seth called Michael a derogatory name on Facebook. "LOL, he wouldn't fight me," Seth wrote. Amber posted, "It feels so weird waking up when you're not beside me." Seth responded, "You're telling me. Amber, I'm done with the fighting with you. Hopefully we can work out later down the road." Mike, the new boyfriend, then chimed in. "Seth, she was talking about me," he wrote. Amber then wrote to Seth, "Just do me a favor and consider me dead to you." 15-year-old Amber was so into her new boyfriend, she tattooed his initials on her body. Seth reacted. He made threats. He accused Amber of using drugs. It was getting uglier and uglier. Seth's family was worried about how much he was focusing on Amber. "Stay away from Amber Wright. Get over it. Leave it alone," Seth's mother warned her son. But Seth, who was still in love with Amber, according to the prosecutor, didn't follow her advice. The situation was going to end in tragedy in April 2011. "Hey, I need to talk," Amber texted Seth one evening. "I want to get back together. Don't tell anyone. But can you please call me?" Seth's mother warned him not to go. But Seth, while out with his friends in the neighborhood, headed over to the trailer owned by Charlie Ely, Amber's friend. There, the 15-year-old was overpowered by a group of young people led by Amber's new older boyfriend. Seth was savagely beaten, shot, and his corpse burned in a fire. The prosecutor would later tell a jury that his teeth were pulled out of his burnt skull with pliers. According to prosecutors, the ringleader was 19-year-old Michael Bargo, as well as 15-year-old Amber Wright, 20-year-old Justin Soto, and Amber's brother, 17-year-old Kyle Hooper. They were all convicted of murder and sentenced to either life in prison or death. Today, we're focusing on the trial of the 5th person involved, Charlie Ely, an 18-year-old woman who was charged with premeditated first-degree murder as a principal to the crime. The prosecutor told jurors when opening statements for Charlie's trial began in September 2011, "Now, you are not going to hear any evidence in this trial that this defendant, Charlie Ely, shot Seth Jackson, beat Seth Jackson, or mutilated his body in any way. But what you are going to hear is that Charlie Ely was present at her house during the planning of the murder of Seth Jackson. Charlie Ely had a role in the murder of Seth Jackson. Charlie Ely carried out that role when she went with Amber Wright and lured Seth Jackson back to her house." According to the Akala Star Banner, Florida law states that in order to be a principal to first-degree murder, a person must do or say something that directly causes the crime to be committed. The main evidence against Charlie boiled down to a recorded police interview where Charlie made an admission. Prosecutors pounced on it. The video was the crux of their legal case against her. But the video also raised plenty of questions, including law enforcement's interviewing tactics. At one point, a sheriff's detective pretended to be the dead boy when he interrogated Charlie. He was role-playing as a ghost, trying to get Charlie to talk.
"If I'm Seth, and I'm looking at you right now, and I'm asking you, why didn't you help me? What would you say to me? What did I do to you so bad?
Nothing.
Well, why did you let this happen to me?
I don't know.
Would that recorded interview be enough for a jury to convict Charlie? This is Matt Stroud in for Jillian Jalali, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 237. The fire in the backyard fire pit was already burning at Charlie Ely's trailer. Seth headed over there that Sunday night. He had hopes of reconciling with Amber. A neighbor who lived directly behind Charlie's trailer saw the blaze going around 9:30 p.m. Assistant State Attorney Amy Berndt said another neighbor saw something much more sinister later on that night. While taking a smoke break outside around 10 p.m., the neighbor watched a male figure run out of Charlie's trailer, followed by 3 other male figures chasing after him. They caught the fleeing person and beat him up and dragged him back into the house. The neighbor kept smoking. He didn't call the police. Just after 11 p.m., the fire looked out of control, the flames jumping 20 feet in the air. The neighbors who lived catty-corner to Charlie were worried enough that they went outside and warned the young people that they needed to tend to the fire. The neighbors feared the fire was going to spread to their home. Prosecutor Berndt told the jury that these neighbors remember one young woman in particular that night. She was very chatty, carefree. It was Charlie. Charlie stood in between 2 males. One had his chest puffed out, perhaps in a threatening manner. "Hi, my husband Joe is in prison," Charlie said as she chit-chatted with her neighbors. "You guys can come over and hang out with us anytime you want." Unbeknownst to the neighbors, Charlie made the offer as the 20-foot flames burned with the body of Seth Jackson underneath. Who was Charlie Ely? Charlie hadn't grown up in Ocala, where all of her co-defendants were from. Ocala being a small city of less than 60,000 people in 2011 and just over an hour's drive from Disney World. Charlie was from Maryland. She had moved to Ocala in 2010 after reportedly falling in love with a man she met online. But the Florida dream didn't pan out. Charlie and the man got married, but shortly thereafter he went to prison, and so 18-year-old Charlie was on her own to fend for herself. She was falling behind on rent. She got roommates, Amber Wright's brother, Carl Hooper, and Michael Bargo, to help her get by. She had only known them for a week and a half, according to Charlie's defense attorney. Charlie's trailer was becoming a parent-free escape for the young people in the neighborhood to hang out and crash with her. Aside from Charlie, they had all once attended Bellevue High School. Charlie, according to her defense, was an outsider. And her new roommates and new friends took over her home, they said. Charlie's aunt told the Gainesville Sun, "These kids, all of them were users of her. She had her own place and everyone just came in. She was very naive, not street smart. She had only been away from home for a few months." Seth Jackson was hopeful that his ex-girlfriend, Amber Wright, wanted to get back together. He had text messages as proof, after all. So Seth ventured out to Charlie Ely's house on Sunday night, April 17th, 2011. He never returned home again. His mother and his friends tried to call him in vain. Prosecutors said Charlie told a friend that Michael Bargo, who had a reputation for carrying a .22 caliber pistol around the neighborhood, shot his gun at Seth and that Seth ran away. It didn't take long before word got back to Seth's mom and law enforcement that something bad had happened at Charlie's. In her opening statements, prosecutor Amy Berndt said, "The police come out, and they talk to everybody in the neighborhood, including Charlie Ely. The deputy that talked to Charlie Ely will tell you that she was acting strange. Every time she was trying to interview another person, asking when the last time they had seen Seth, the defendant jumps in and gets in the conversation and starts trying to interject herself in every interview he's doing, and she keeps changing her story. And she tells the officer, 'We met Seth down here last night. I saw Michael Bargo. I heard a firecracker, and then I saw Seth run away.' That's what she tells the police that night." The search for Seth intensified. Investigators checked the woods. They put out a bolo, "Be on the lookout," warning for him. By Tuesday, the case broke open. The mother of Kyle Hooper, one of the young people eventually charged, realized her son was acting strange. So was Kyle's sister, Amber Wright, and Charlie, who had spent the night at Kyle and Amber's home Monday night. Kyle's mother told him, "You need to tell me what happened." She then contacted the Marion County Sheriff's Office. Investigators interviewed Kyle, Amber, and Charlie. The crime was unraveling the more people spoke to investigators. Law enforcement now knew where to look. A lime rock pit behind Gander Mountain had been flooded. That's where they discovered 3 5-gallon paint buckets. 2 were tied down underwater with cinder blocks. The third had floated to the surface. Inside the buckets were charred human remains and a human tooth. Then, at Charlie's trailer, there were again more gruesome discoveries, Prosecutor Burnt told jurors. Bones, tons of bones in the fire pit at Charlie Ely's house. It was clear, without a doubt, Seth's remains had been recovered. The bones, according to a forensic anthropologist, belonged to a boy between the ages of 14 and 16 years old. A DNA match proved the person's remains matched as a family member of Seth's parents. Investigators also found a .22 caliber handgun hidden in an air duct at Charlie's home. Everyone who had been at Charlie's trailer the night Seth was murdered had been found, except for Michael Bargo. He traveled east across Florida to a rural town called Starkey, in between Gainesville and Jacksonville, where Crystal Anderson lived. Michael had once dated Crystal's daughter and trusted Crystal enough as an adult to confide in her. Prosecutor Burnt said he told Crystal Anderson that he shot Seth Jackson multiple times and beat him up. Then he put him in a bathtub, beat him some more, shot him in the face multiple times. He tells Crystal how Seth almost got away. He's going to say, "Yeah, the kid ran out of the house, but we grabbed him and brought him back in. And after I beat him and shot him in the bathtub, we burned his body in a fire pit. And after I burned his body, I took some pliers and pulled out his teeth." And then he tells Crystal Anderson after that, he puts his remains in buckets, 5-gallon buckets. He took those buckets to a swimming hole or a quarry, and we dumped them in there. For their roles, Amber Wright, Michael Bargo, Kyle Hooper, and Justin Soto were all guilty of murder, separate juries later decided. But what role did Charlie Ely play in Seth's death? According to the prosecution, Charlie knew about the plot to murder him. Her job was to help lure him over to the trailer. The state's case hinged on a recorded interview between a Marion County Sheriff's detective and Charlie, where she admitted her involvement, the prosecution said, telling jurors it was the final piece of evidence you are going to hear presented from the state and probably the most important piece of evidence in the case against Charlie. The prosecutor's opening statements ended with that as she told jurors, "There will be no doubt in your mind that the defendant, Charlie Ely, is guilty of being a principal to first-degree murder." Neither the defense nor the prosecution disputed that Charlie had not physically hurt Seth. She hadn't laid a finger on him. She didn't shoot him or beat him or burn him. Both sides could agree on that. But Charlie's defense attorney, Jonathan Bull, told jurors in his opening statements, "The state has claimed that Amber Wright and Charlie Ely were supposed to lure Seth Jackson to the home. But the question is, will the evidence show that is what actually happened? No." He repeated no emphatically again. No and no. What the evidence will show is that Amber Wright, not Charlie, is the one who had a prior relationship with Seth Jackson. And that relationship got ugly. So ask yourself, who had motive? Amber Wright had motive. Charlie, you'll hear, barely even knew Seth Jackson. She had no motive to participate in this plan. He said phone records proved his client's innocence. There were no calls or texts between Charlie and Seth the night he died. And this is important, Bull went on. You are not going to hear one single solitary scrap of evidence that says when the first time those two met, Charlie did anything to participate in that luring. She was merely there. She was present. Did she participate? The state's got to prove it, and the evidence isn't going to show it. Yes, Charlie had been there that night, but she was under duress, he said. Michael Bargo, the one who wanted to kill Seth, threatened Amber and Charlie at gunpoint. And when Amber called Seth to convince him to come over, Amber made that phone call away from Charlie, who hadn't been aware what was happening. And as far as the prosecution's key evidence, the recorded interview where Charlie admitted that her role had been to get Seth to her house, he said the detective repeatedly badgered Charlie until she broke down and gave a false confession. Her statements to police were not voluntary, he said. You need to disregard it. What's more, he told the jury that what Charlie said to law enforcement proved she did not know what the group was plotting to do. She says the original plan was not to kill Seth Jackson. It was to beat him up, Bull said. You will also hear that Michael Bargo, not once but twice, held her at gunpoint to participate in that plan. You will also hear that as soon as Seth Jackson arrived at that home, they sat in the room, and that's when Kyle Hooper came up and hit Seth Jackson in the head with an axe handle. And at that point, Charlie and Amber fled to her bedroom, and that's all they saw. They stayed there for the rest of the night. He said even though it was Charlie's home, Charlie did not make the fire and was not involved in burning Seth's body. He also argued that Michael's statements to his friend Crystal proved that Charlie wasn't a killer. Michael Bargo's statement was, in essence, yes, I shot someone. Yes, I burned the body and destroyed the evidence. But he doesn't mention anyone else. There is nothing from that statement that connects Charlie Ely to this crime. He asked the jury to find Charlie not guilty. Sonia Jackson, Seth's mother, was the first witness to take the stand at Charlie's trial. Seth came from a family of S's. His mother, Sonia, his father, Scott, and Seth's two older brothers, Scott Jr. and Stephen. Seth was the youngest. Seth's relationship with Amber had not been a long one. They began dating in December 2010. They broke up in late March 2011. By April 2011, Seth was dead. At first, they were happy, his mother testified. He was very hurt after their breakup. Then, Amber started dating Michael. Seth's mother noticed the new couple holding hands and kissing in Amber's front yard. 2 weeks before Seth's death, Seth and Michael got in a verbal argument on the Jacksons' driveway. Seth's mother overheard it. Megan Albany, Charlie's former roommate, knew several of the young people at the heart of the crime. Michael Bargo and Justin Soto were living with her and Charlie. Megan said she and her boyfriend had moved out the week before Seth was murdered because she felt it was going to be too crowded in the two-bedroom trailer. Megan had reasons for wanting more space and privacy. She thought she was pregnant. It wouldn't have been a safe place to raise a baby either. Megan testified she saw Michael often holding a gun and using a tree in the backyard for target practice. He shot at the tree from a bathroom window. He wasn't afraid to point the gun at people either. He once aimed it right at Megan, she testified. Megan told the jury she never saw Charlie handle the gun. Even though she moved out, Megan stayed in touch with Charlie, including on Sunday, April 17th, 2011, the night Seth was murdered. She said Charlie called her that night around 10 or 11 p.m. She asked how I was doing, if I had found out if I was pregnant yet or not, and that she missed me, and she wanted us to come back, Megan testified. Charlie wasn't upset on the phone, but someone in the background was. Megan heard crying. I asked who was crying, and she told me it was Amber, Megan testified. What did she tell you about Amber crying? The prosecutor asked. She was upset, Megan testified. The defendant told you that Amber was upset? The prosecutor clarified. Yes, ma'am. And did she tell you what she was upset about? The prosecutor asked. No, ma'am, Megan said. Did you offer to talk to Amber and try to help the situation? Yes, ma'am. And what was the defendant's response? Charlie said she could handle it, Megan testified. To convict Charlie Ely of first-degree premeditated murder as a principal to the crime, the prosecution had to prove three things according to court documents. Number one, Seth Jackson was dead. The death was caused by a criminal act by Michael Bargo, and Charlie was principal to that act. Number three, this was a premeditated killing of Seth Jackson. So Charlie knew Seth was going to be murdered, and she did something to assist the killer or killers in actually committing the crime. To prove points 2 and 3, Prosecutors were going to use the recorded police interview with Charlie. They played the entire recording, and Charlie's defense team did not object. Detective Donald Bowie interviewed Charlie on April 19, 2011, 2 days after Seth's murder. 4 times during the interview, Detective Bowie left the room. Each time he returned, he seemed to know more. That's because other detectives were interviewing Kyle Hooper and Justin Soto at the same time and then stopping to share information with each other.
I need you to be totally honest and truthful with me, okay? Because we have talked to other people. We've talked to Kyle, okay? And Kyle has told us his new version of the story, okay? At this point, he's been totally cooperative, okay? I know there's some things that transpired prior to. I know there were some conversations prior to about something happening.
I wasn't involved in that. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, it might have been between him and Mike, but I don't know.
You and Amber were involved in this.
I don't see how. We went up and met him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he walked off with his mom.
Well, let me explain something to you. Kyle has already, and I'll be honest with you, has implemented you in being involved in knowing or having knowledge to this thing transpiring prior to it happening.
But I didn't.
He told her she knew Seth wasn't ever going to walk out of her house that night.
I didn't know he wasn't going to walk out of my house. Because all I was seriously told by Mike that all he wanted to do was talk and probably beat his ass. That's it.
That's not what Seth is saying.
Seth.
You need to be honest with me. You need to be honest with me.
I mean,
no matter how bad it may seem or it may look, okay, it looks worse for you to sit up here and continue to lie, okay? You've already lied to law enforcement one time, right? Yeah. You've already lied to me one time, right? Are we gonna continue lying, or is this the day that we're gonna be totally truthful?
I knew about it. They didn't say he was going to kill him, but he said he wanted to kick his ass, and he made a comment that he might not be out. He might not come out of it.
So you knew that his life was going to end that day?
I didn't know for a fact. He said it might not.
Mike had told you.
He said all I want to do is scare him.
Scare him?
Yeah.
That's not the same story that we're getting in the other room. And I'm going to be honest with you. That's going to hide from you. And I'm going to tell you that there's other people saying totally things that are different than what you're saying.
Okay, Mike pulled me aside. And what he told me might be different from what he told everybody else.
No, you were all right there together. You all knew about this. You, Amber, Mike, Roach, everybody. Kyle, you all knew that when Seth came to that house, that he was not going to leave that house. You knew, based off of your actions and what happened when Kyle hit Seth on that head with that stick, and you guys ran in the room, you separated yourself because you knew what was going to happen. Okay? Understand, I'm not going to ask you a question that I may not know the answer to. Okay?
Yeah.
It's up to you if you want to be truthful with yourself. Because I told you, you can paint a bad picture, or you can paint the truth.
She said Mike did tell the group that he wanted to kill them.
Can we agree with that?
Mike sat us all down and had a conversation, and he's like, I want to kill Sal. And I said, that's not a good idea. And he's like, yeah, I want to kill Sal. I said, that's not a good idea.
Okay.
And then,
when did that happen?
That happened earlier that day.
Okay.
And then he had Amber text Seth, said, hey, can we hang out? Can we make everything better?
Mm-hmm.
And then, me and her, went and met him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walked back with us, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know Mike was serious. And then, when Kyle hit him over the head, that's when we ran into the room because we didn't know where Mike was. We thought he was in his room, and obviously that's where he was. But, we didn't know where he was with the gun.
She conceded that she knew Seth was not going to walk out of the house alive.
You knew that Seth was never going to walk out of your house alive. Is that correct?
Yeah. Like, not
Where's his body
completely.
at right now?
I don't know. Mike wouldn't tell us.
Did you see Seth's dead body?
No, I did not at all. I was too scared to even go out of my room, especially after Mike coming in saying, "Stay in here, I'll kill you."
Did you clean up anything in your house?
No, I didn't. Hell no. I wouldn't be able to. I didn't see any blood, nothing.
So basically, your role and Amber's role was to get Seth to the house, knowing that Mike was going to kill him when he got to the house. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know that Amber called him back until he showed up.
That wasn't my question. What, is there something wrong with your eye? Okay, don't
Yeah,
irritate
my
it.
eye hurts because I'm fucking blind in it.
Okay, well, don't irritate it by rubbing it. That's going to make it worse. Okay? Hold your head up and talk to me. The question that I asked you was that you knew when you left the house, you and Amber, to go meet Seth up there, your role in this play was to get him back to the house. Correct? Yeah. Okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to make sure this is what I'm hearing. And when he didn't show up to the house when you guys got back there, Mike was pissed off.
Yeah, I just wanted to leave, but he wouldn't let me either.
Why haven't you told me any of this?
Because I'm scared.
Scared of what?
That I'm going to get charged or something. And I'm just a person on the side.
You're not on the side, sweetheart. You're on deck with everybody else. I want to be honest with you. You're on deck with everybody else. You knew what was going to happen. You partaked in a small role in this, in getting him to the house. Did you not like Seth that much?
I didn't even know him.
So why would you do that?
Because Amber asked me to walk with her.
Charlie did not take the stand in her own defense, so this is the only way jurors could hear her version of events in her own words. Her defense did not call any witnesses before it rested. When closing arguments began on September 23, 2011, Assistant State Attorney Amy Berndt told jurors, "During the course of the trial, the defendant and the defense want you to believe that Charlie Ely was a scared pawn who was forced to participate in the murder of Seth Jackson. But the evidence has shown you that the only person who was scared on April 17th was Seth Jackson." Prosecutor Berndt rehashed the timeline of Seth's murder, how Amber lured him to Charlie's home with text messages and calls, how when Seth arrived, she was ambushed and Kyle Hooper hit him on the head, how Seth ran out of the house and Michael, Kyle, and Justin chased him down and dragged him back inside. By 11 p.m. that night, Seth was dead. Michael shot him in the face, and then his body was burned so his remains could be hidden. When the night's violence began, Prosecutor Berndt said Amber and Charlie ran away and hid in a bedroom. The plan was hatched and everyone had their roles, she said. And Charlie admitted her role in her recorded police interview, she argued, pointing to the transcript when Detective Bowie asked her, "So basically your role and Amber's role was to get Seth to the house knowing that Mike was going to kill him when he got to the house. Is that correct?" Charlie's response, yeah. Seth was worried, rightfully so. He was walking into an ambush and texted Amber before he came over. "Amber, if you have me jumped, I'll never give you the time of day again." Amber had also texted Seth not to tell anyone where he was going, which undoubtedly made him more suspicious too. That's why, Prosecutor Berndt said, they needed Charlie Ely. Send Charlie Ely because just Amber by himself, he's going to be more suspicious. But if Charlie Ely is there, all right, well, maybe it is a little bit safer. Let's send Charlie and Amber together because he's already suspicious. But was there enough evidence to prove that Charlie had helped contribute to Seth's murder and that she knew in advance of the plans to kill Seth? None of the text messages the prosecution read to the jury had actually been sent from Charlie's phone. They were all from Amber's. It was also a nuanced charge, principal to first-degree murder. Would it confuse the jurors? If the defendant helped another person or persons commit a crime, the defendant is a principal and must be treated as if she had done all of the other things the other person or persons did if the defendant had a conscious intent that the criminal act be done, Prosecutor Berndt told them. She went on, "This is very important right here at the end. To be a principal, the defendant does not even have to be present when the crime is committed. You don't even have to be there to be found guilty of being a principal to a crime. Did the defendant have a conscious intent that the criminal act be done?" She then asked a rhetorical, emotionally charged question. How many times could Charlie Ely have stopped Seth's murder? Charlie didn't privately warn Seth not to come over. She never called the police. What did she do instead? She was out by the bonfire with the rest of her roommates and friends after Seth was murdered, eagerly inviting a neighbor to hang out with them sometime. No one who saw her after the murder described her as shocked and horrified, Prosecutor Berndt said. And these are descriptions from the numerous people that saw her after the murder describing her: bubbly, happy, friendly, outgoing, chatty, and normal. She also downplayed the defense's characterization that Charlie was the outsider and everyone who lived in her trailer belonged to a clique from high school. She pointed out that Amber didn't go to school at all, while the other defendants were 19 or 20 years old, no longer high school age. In the end, the prosecution's arguments won over the jury. The verdict came back that Charlie Ely was guilty. Seth's mother, Sonia Jackson, addressed the court and Charlie during the sentencing hearing a few weeks later. "The loss of our son has been the most difficult thing we have ever had to bear. Words cannot describe the pain and suffering you have inflicted on our family by your actions," she said. "We have no sympathy for the tears that flow down your cheeks, for these tears have not been for Seth, but rather what's happened to you. You could have been a hero that saved many lives, but instead we are standing here today asking for justice for our son." Then a judge sentenced Charlie to life in prison. For years, Charlie fought her murder conviction. She obtained a new defense lawyer, one that came with a national reputation. It was Jose Baez, the same attorney who won a murder acquittal for Casey Anthony, the Florida mother accused of killing her young daughter. Would Jose Baez be able to free Charlie Ely, too? U.S. District Judge Roy B. Dalton, Jr., who presides over the Middle District of Florida, found merit to some of Charlie Ely's arguments that she had received an ineffective defense and an unfair trial. In her recorded sheriff's interview, which was the basis of the state's case against her, jurors heard Detective Bowie bring up statements that Charlie's co-defendants made against Charlie. The three young people were all interviewed at the same time by different detectives who kept stepping away to share information with each other as the interviews unfolded in real time. Justin and Kyle claimed that Charlie had been involved with the gruesome killing. There was no way for the jurors to know if what the boys had said was true. It is evident Detective Bowie developed his version of the truth in part by learning what Ely's co-defendants were saying, the federal judge wrote in his 2020 order. Through Detective Bowie, Ely's unavailable co-defendants essentially became witnesses against her, and they were not subject to cross-examination. And because Detective Bowie was relaying what Justin and Kyle told police, perhaps the jurors found it more credible coming out of a sworn law official's mouth when the video played in court. The federal judge concluded that Kyle and Justin's statements about Charlie were important to the prosecutor's case. Without those statements, Charlie's guilty verdict might have had a different outcome. He noted that it had been Amber Wright, Seth's ex-girlfriend, who texted and called Seth and convinced him to come to Charlie's. Charlie believed Michael was going to just beat up Seth. She didn't know Michael planned to murder him, according to what she said in the police video. And despite acknowledging that the state's case against Ely was fairly weak, and the heart of the state's case was the taped statement, Charlie's defense attorney, Jonathan Bull, did not file any motions to try and prevent the recorded interview from being played at trial. Bull said he didn't object because when I reviewed the recording, there was nothing that necessarily jumped out at me that would require redaction. There was nothing clear that said, I need to redact this, according to federal court documents. And what about the portion of the video when Detective Bowie pretended to be Seth's ghost and was role-playing with Charlie, asking her, Why didn't you help me? Why did you let this happen to me?
If you can say something to Seth right now, what would you say to him?
Just get away. I'm sorry. Just go. I wanted to tell him so many times to don't even go.
But you didn't. If I'm Seth, and I'm looking at you right now, and I'm asking you, why didn't you help me? What would you say to me?
I was scared.
Why didn't you help me?
I was scared that Mike was going to pull a gun on me.
Mike wasn't there. Mike wasn't there. When we were on the corner, Mike wasn't there. Why did you let this happen to me?
I don't know.
Why did you let this happen to me? What did I do to you so bad?
Nothing.
Well, why did you let this happen to me?
I don't know. I didn't think it was going to go that far. I really didn't.
Jonathan Bull later said that he was appalled and outraged by the over-the-top characterization of this role-playing portion of the video, and that it stood out in his mind, according to federal court documents. But he said he was racking his brain for a basis to actually object. The federal judge criticized Bull's inaction. Despite being appalled and knowing some jurors were susceptible to a suggestion that failure to prevent the crime equates to guilt as a principle to first-degree murder, counsel failed to move to redact this portion of the video. Under the circumstances, no competent attorney would have made such a decision. He wrote that the video likely seared an impression on jurors. When Detective Bowie pretends to be Seth's ghost, Charlie becomes more emotional than at any point in the interrogation, to the point her responses are delayed because she is crying. Because of those delays, the 6 questions and responses span almost 2 minutes, he wrote. The federal judge found the essence of this exchange was to equate Ely's moral wrong with criminal guilt as a principle to murder. Given the case against Charlie Ely was weak, counsel's error likely affected the verdict, rendering it unreliable. All this time, Charlie had been serving her life sentence in prison. The judge ordered a new trial, setting in motion the opportunity for Charlie to make a deal with the state attorney's office. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, but she wasn't going to serve any more time behind bars. Her sentence credited the 10 years she had already served in jail and prison. And so in 2020, 27-year-old Charlie Ely was released. She was free. This case is a perfect example of be careful who you hang around with, Jose Baez told Orlando's WESH2 TV station. Charlie was mixed up with the wrong group of people. Her crime was being present at the scene. She is just a victim of being present. She had no role in the murder, no role in the cleanup, no role in this whatsoever. As far as the other people in this story, what happened to them? There have been questions as to whether Amber Wright might serve a shorter sentence, as the state of Florida has re-examined how juvenile defendants are sentenced. But in the end, Amber was resentenced in 2016 to life in prison. Her sentence can be reviewed after 25 years. I have not seen or heard anything more despicable than what led to Seth Jackson's death, Circuit Judge Anthony Toddy told the 19-year-old Amber at the time of her resentencing, according to the Gainesville Sun. I cannot imagine a circumstance any worse, and I pray to my God that the reason behind all of this is some chemical imbalance or a brain that hasn't matured. It's really hard to deal with the notion that such an evil could exist without explanation. Michael Bargo had been convicted and sentenced to death for murdering Seth, which at the time in 2013 had made him the youngest person on Florida's death row, according to the Orlando Sentinel. His sentence was upheld in 2021 by the Florida Supreme Court in a 6-1 ruling. The state's highest court hadn't been swayed by Michael's arguments that he was mentally ill. He argued that he had been diagnosed with bipolar and schizoaffective disorder and wasn't taking his medicine when he killed Seth. He also said he had a serious drug addiction and came from a troubled family. Michael, who turned 31 years old on April 29th of this year, is housed at the Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida. As for Charlie Ely's original defense attorney, Jonathan Bull, he is not allowed to practice law today in Florida. His license has been suspended since 2018. According to the Florida Bar Association, problems arose when he allowed non-lawyers in his firm to run it. According to the Bar Association's formal complaint against him, he has acknowledged that the non-lawyers at the firm engaged in a pattern of soliciting or accepting new clients and accepting fees without his supervision. And what about Donald Bowie? The detective whose interviewing tactics ultimately helped to get a conviction tossed, well, he's no longer with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. It had nothing to do with his investigative strategies either. He resigned in 2018 after being arrested on domestic battery charges. That's all for this episode. As always, we'd love to know what you think about this case. Let us know by joining the conversation on Instagram at CourtJunkie, on Twitter at CourtJunkiePod, or you can email us at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads, hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, or get access to our weekly court newsletter, please check out our Patreon options at courtjunkie.com/support. And please check out our sister podcast, Civil, where we cover the most fascinating civil cases and trials. Just a reminder, Jillian is out on maternity leave and hopes to be back sometime in June. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.